We already know if I'm starting the podcast that it means that Justin's off. I mean, for the non-video watchers, of course, the video watchers can see that usually, but when you do the podcast, or we've done the show now, this is season of 12 and, going on 11-ish years, you have a few memorable episodes, some that stick out in your head more than others. And that's true when you have guest episodes on. And I mean, I think this is going to be, one of the intros that's going to be more memorable in quite a while. Because we are super excited. I mean, look, you've heard him here before, but we are super excited to welcome Nick Gryniewicz back to the podcast, play-by-play voice of the Osceola Magic. If you've listened to the podcast in the last few months, you know that Nick has had a crazy journey. It has been quite a little bit. As we're speaking to him here, he is now a few months fresh off a full-blown heart transplant. Straight out of the Cleveland Clinic, somebody else's heart beating in his body. Crazy thing to think about. But I mean, look at you, pal. You're here. You're healthy. You're back at it, podcasting. Yeah, man. I mean, listen, this is the happiest I've been to do a podcast in a while. Like, I'm just happy to have you back, my brother. It's been a long time. It's good to see you like smiling and back in Orlando where you belong, not in a hospital bed in Cleveland.
This completes the comeback for me right here. Like, I mean, I had a huge, long list of boxes to check, get out of the hospital, get the hell out of Cleveland. By the way, Cleveland, Ohio will always have a special place in my transplanted heart because, the people there saved my life, of course. But, get back home, do all these different things. But, a drive and dish episode was definitely on there. So I'm glad to be here and really appreciate, of course, your support and the support of, your listeners and everyone. I heard from a ton of people while I was in the hospital and recovering. And so, yeah, it's great to be here. Just happy to have a chance to talk a little hoops with you and all that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you were in Cleveland during maybe the most fun Cavs season in quite a while. So, like, I guess there's that at least.
Funny story. So I get admitted to Cleveland Clinic in Ohio October 6th. So 2 days after my 35th birthday. I was in Denver, Colorado, celebrating our birthday with my twin brother. Ended up going into in arrhythmia while I was there. I'll spare everyone of the details, but basically had to get on a United flight and fly to Cleveland, Ohio at the direction of my cardiologist. Get there on late October 6th. They admit me. And we're early in the NBA season at that point in time. And the Cavaliers are off to that 9-0, 10-0 start or something. And I get admitted to the heart transplant floor. Basically, it's a floor. It's 10 rooms, 10 patients. And we're all waiting for a heart transplant. And so you have a rotation of nurses that take care of you. Like, as you can see, there's a heart pillow over my right shoulder behind me there on the shelf. And that's the pillow they give you after you get a transplant. All of my nurses signed it, actually. And so it's but there were 3 or 4 nurses there that were big Cavaliers fans. And I will say, Cleveland, unbelievable sports city. Everyone gives a damn about every sport. And I'm talking down to minor league hockey. Like, they care about their Cleveland Monsters, the AHL affiliate of the Columbus Blue Jackets. By the way, show out Monsters. And the first day I got there, I was like, hey, by the way, this is unsustainable. You guys are chokers. You're a weird franchise. Go ahead, enjoy it, but you're frauds. And I sat there in the hospital. I was there 81 days and watched the Cavaliers end up with the best record in the Eastern Conference. So it was an unbelievable year for the Cavs and quite a crazy year for me, just sitting there night after night watching it. Just crazy.
So what is the detail kind of what the rehab process is like? So you had the transplant a few months in, yep. Unfortunately that was the big deal, 81 days it was 81, right?
Mm-hmm. Total. Yep.
Yeah. 81 days before, you got in and got the transplant. Then you were out in 14, which is really crazy. Kind of in transitional housing and up there, but because I mean, that's, obviously with us talking off the mic, I know all the things you're cleared now to do, from travel, from, you were at the Orlando Solar Bears game the other night, speaking of minor league hockey,
mm-hmm.
What does a day-to-day rehab look like for you as a cardiac transplant?
I mean, so early on, and you're right. So I had the transplant actually day 67, day 81 was released. And so 14 days after they put the heart in on the night of December 11th, didn't finish until December 12th. It's like a 6 or 7 hour procedure is what it is. I don't know. I was asleep the whole time. So can't tell you for sure. But so you wake up the 2 weeks while you're in the hospital, they get you up and you're walking the next day. And so like I have the video of me getting up and walking the next day. They get you into a chair the next day and then they say it's time to walk. And I will tell you from experience, you're like, hell no, that is not happening. And there are a lot of things that are going to happen on this planet today. Me getting up and walking is not going to happen. Once you're released, it's basically you're cleared for kind of like light activity. It's basically if you can get up and down the stairs, never respected stairs more, by the way. Stairs. You guys, there we go. But it's like light walking. That's about it. You can't lift anything more than 10 pounds, really, for the first, 6 or 8 weeks, something like that. So it's very light, just kind of. And really what I did was like I walked around Cleveland. I was staying in a transplant housing. So they have special housing there that's not paid for, but it's much cheaper for families that are waiting. My wife and my mother stayed there for the entire time that I was there, basically. And it's in the neighborhood, the same area as Case Western Reserve University. So you're staying in a college town, basically, which was kind of cool, I have to be honest. And so I would walk around the community there, and they had a football stadium that was open air. And so I would just go down there and I would walk around the football stadium, the track, and just kind of do that. And so, I worked my way up to where I was walking 4, 5, 6 miles a day and just kind of, doing a lot of that. And then after 6 weeks, they get you into something that's called cardiac rehab. And what that is it's 3 days a week where basically I would go in and they would put me on a treadmill or a bike. I'm a treadmill guy. If you're team exercise bike, go ahead. I think it's just, I've never gotten anything out of it, but hey, Peloton users, go for it. But, and what they do is they basically have you exercise and they watch how your heart reacts. The reason being is when you get a transplant, they have to sever a nerve called the vagus nerve. I had never heard of this nerve before being a transplant patient, before, waiting what it is. And basically what it is it's the highway that connects your brain to your heart, that tells your heart, hey, we're no longer exercising. We're no longer moving. It's time to slow down. It's okay. We don't need you to do. And it's also the thing that tells the rest of your body, the keys from your heart, hey, we need more of this or that because we're exercising, whether it's epinephrine or something like that. And so your body doesn't understand how to communicate post-transplant with the rest of, from its heart to the rest of the body when you exert yourself. The only way it does that is through this nerve and through hormones. And so I've had to learn when exercising kind of how to do that all over again. And so you slowly 3 days a week kind of work your way up. And when I got there, I was walking like 2.5, 3 miles an hour on a treadmill. After 10 weeks, you're then cleared to lift weights. So I've been kind of lifting weights and getting back into that. Probably one of the scariest things I've ever done in my life is you go in one day, it's your 10 weeks and it's like, hey, we're going to do weights today. How do you feel about doing a chest press? It's like, I don't know. They only cut me open like, 90 days ago or, 60 days ago.
Bad? I don't feel good.
Yeah, I don't feel, not confident. I'm not confident. But the crazy thing is like what I've learned is like the human body is the most resilient thing on the planet. It is nuts how you can get another person's organ transplanted into you. 14 days, you're released. And, I ran on and off. It's a walk run. I don't want to take too much glory, but like I was on a treadmill yesterday for 50 minutes and ran almost 3 miles, you know what I mean? Or traveled almost 3 miles. And so, I've been able to kind of work my way back up. I got cleared to run 3 weeks ago. Mid-April, 2 weeks ago. Wow. And have kind of started to do that. And I've got probably another 6 weeks of cardiac rehab left where I'll continue to just, at this point, like get myself into shape and have a professional keeping an eye on me.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your humility here, but you can talk your talk a little bit, my brother. Like I've said this to you, I don't care whatever weight you're doing, how many miles you're running, like you're undoubtedly one of the strongest people I know, being able to go through this process and being back on your feet already. It's just, you're just in awe as an observer. Like obviously know you're still going through it. This is not something that just ends. Like this is a lifetime battle, but like you said, the fact that you're back home and in Orlando and not in a hospital bed, the fact that you left the hospital 14 days after with somebody else's heart is crazy. Having gone through this process, whether it's for, people that are going through it, for people that are on the outside kind of watching, I guess for people that are going through it now, or for someone who's just like, hey, how can I help in the future? Are there any like things that they can do or any tips that you would have or advice, I guess?
if you're not a heart transplant patient, or you're someone who just wants to help, the easiest piece of advice I give you is be an organ donor, right? Whether that is heart, kidney, lungs. It's easy. Listen, I can very easily say, hey, what do you need it for? I always do couch this with, if you have some sort of religious view that you feel like it's something you cannot do. I want to respect everyone's viewpoints there, but there are hundreds of thousands of people waiting every single year for an organ transplant. And we do thousands, you know what I mean? In terms of heart transplants, it's, I think, 200,000, 250,000 people waiting a year. And we do less than 1,500 a year. I was heart transplant number 68 at the Cleveland Clinic in 2024. I believe that they got to 71. That 71 or 72 that they did was a record for them in a year in terms of the number of heart transplants that they did. So you can see just and they're the number one place in the world that does them. Now, that doesn't mean they do the most. It just means their outcomes are the best. But we are not doing hundreds of thousands of these a year. People are waiting and waiting. As I said, I was on a floor with 9 other patients, and there is no frustrating thing than being that patient. As I said, I waited 67 days before they called me and said, hey, we're ready to get the show on the road here. It is very frustrating, that wait. It is demoralizing at times. It is the most tested mentally that I've ever been in my entire life, because what you are doing is you are waking up every single day. And it's Groundhog Day. I feel like Bill Murray, you know what I mean, in Punxsutawney. Every single day, Sonny and Cher woke me up, and I waited for a doctor to say, hey, and you prayed, by the way, no changes. You prayed, hey, I hope that everything's the same, and there's nothing on my lab work that says, you know what, we need to up these meds, or we need to change this. And so, you would see the other patients and talk to them, and, very similar frustrations. But people are waiting and waiting. Unfortunately, the girl, I was in room 6 at J32 in Cleveland. The girl in room 5 passed away waiting for her organ, for her gift. And, that happens all too often. So if you can be an organ donor, very easily, you can go online, check out the people at Donate Life. They do great things, not just for heart transplant patients, but, for those that are waiting for other organs as well. If you are on a similar journey that I am on, first of all, like, best wishes to you. It is a harrowing journey, but there are great things on the other side. And my guess is, if you just listen to that, you probably rolled your eyes a little bit. I did sitting. I mean, I talked to people, and one of the great resources they had while I was in Cleveland was they had heart transplant patients come in and talk to you 4 days a week. So someone would come in. And I thought that was going to be a waste of time, but it was very valuable, because they give you an idea of kind of what lies ahead. And I would say you do feel better. It's not immediate, but you do feel better. And there is a great deal of positivity on the other side. The number one thing I would say is, if you can get up, keep yourself moving. That is the big thing. Whether you are in a hospital like I was, and I was a bit of an extreme case. I went from, being out. I was having a sushi dinner with my brother for our birthday, in Denver, Colorado, and the next day was admitted and never left. The doors locked behind me. You know what I mean? It was but there are other people that are status 4, status 5, status 6, waiting for their transplants. And they're going to be waiting a long time. Do anything you can to keep moving, keep yourself in some sort of shape. It will, and keep yourself strong. It'll really benefit you when you do eventually go through this. And if you're in a hospital right now, same thing. I mean, sitting in a hospital bed, they say for every day that you are in the hospital sitting in a bed, it takes you 10 days to recover, just because physically what it does to you. And so the advice that I would say is, do all of that. If you're on this journey, there are great Facebook groups, transplant communities where you can get advice. Check out Facebook. I'm part of a heart transplant community on their page. That's great. People will give you feedback and really give you an idea of what to expect. And the final thing would be, like, if you're post-transplant and you're kind of just getting started, or you're very close to that transplant, the biggest thing is, make sure that you learn and educate yourself, that you're your own advocate, and make sure you understand your meds as much as possible. That's the big thing. I have four times a day that I have to take medication. It is not a small amount of pills that you take on this, of course. But being very detail oriented and understanding all of it is important, because I can easily see how people make mistakes, and, you get in trouble that way. So that would be some of my feedback. Yeah.
Last one, and then we'll talk hoops, I promise. When you got home, what was the biggest thing you were excited about? Like,
home to Florida?
To do? Yeah.
Wow, that's a great question. When I got home, I mean, number one, it would be like sleep in my own bed, right? The craziest thing, I'm not sure if I talked to you. I know I talked to our buddy Scott and Ez about this. But the craziest thing for me was, as I said, like, I left to go on a trip, but never came back. And I was in Cleveland for 5 months, right? It was like waking up from a coma going home. Everything was the way that I left it. You know what I mean? So, like, my desk for work, everything was just kind of like sitting. Nothing was it wasn't like it was put away like I was going away for a long time. And so I was, could not wait to sleep in my own bed. Could not wait to take like a legitimate shower. I think that was one thing as well. I spent 81 days in the hospital and did not have access to a shower. They do not let you take one, because you have a for lack of a better way to put it, there's a tube in your neck that is monitoring your heart. And so it's not like you can get that wet. And so I did not take a real shower. And then appreciate the transplant people. Your shower pressure is terrible. Okay. I just want to put that out there. So, like, taking a real shower. And then other than that, getting outside in the sunshine. I mean, I went 81 days without being outside. They let me on the roof once. But that was the other thing. It's just being out in the Florida weather at a time when it's just great. You get home and, March, I've enjoyed some of the nice Florida weather. And other than that, the other biggest box to check was I wanted to go out and kind of enjoy the things that I like to enjoy. I did make it to game 3 of the NBA G League Championship Series. Unfortunately, my Osceola Magic fell to the Stockton Kings. We led in the fourth quarter, just couldn't quite get it done. I really thought we were going to have another ring come home. And then I made it to a few other sporting events, but those were a few big things.
Yeah, it's definitely great. And obviously, like I said, back where you belong, my brother, no doubt about it. All right, before we get into the playoffs, we got obviously a first round, a whole lot of going on. We're going to get to each and every series. Now, basically 3 games in on every series. We do have a few awards that came out that I want to talk about. 6th man of the year, Peyton Pritchard, Evan Mobley, defensive player of the year, and then Jalen Brunson, clutch player of the year. We'll start with Pritchard first, because this was kind of obvious to me. Like, Malik Beasley got second here, and I think that's the only other one that I think you have a fair argument for in Detroit. But it was always weird because Beasley played such a bigger role in their offense that, like, and this is, again, more of like a me thing, but it just never felt like he was a true 6th man the way Pritchard is, where he's like coming off the bench. And then, I mean, look, 5th overall in 3-pointers for the season. Like, it felt like this was kind of a runaway award this year.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It felt like this was going to be Pritchard's award to lose. It was Pritchard's award to lose. There are times where guys like Malik Beasley win this award, and you look back and it's like, sure, he came off the bench, but I mean, it really was when he was out there, like he was the focal point of the offense, and he had such an unbelievable job shooting the basketball that, like, I wish Malik Beasley was going to somehow factor into the award season in some way, because I think it deserves to be recognized. I heard last week that when you look at the numbers, he had a better 3-point shooting season than any of Klay Thompson's 3-point shooting seasons. Like, he had an unbelievable year. But for a high-powered Celtics team that had an unbelievable season as the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, it's hard to not give it to Peyton Pritchard. I thought maybe Ty Jerome should get a little bit of attention for this, but he actually wasn't eligible based on minutes played. There are a few other guys that you could have considered, but it was really going to come down to Beasley and Pritchard, and I'm not surprised that Pritchard won it.
Yeah, a little more runaway there. Right? Ty Jerome, I mean, Cleveland, honestly, too, with DeAndre Hunter a little bit. I think he was in the conversation, but like you said, not to quite the impact that Pritchard had. Defensive player of the year, back to Cleveland with Evan Mobley. I mean, obviously this is an award that kind of got upended when Wemby was announced out for the season with blood clots. Like, he was kind of a runaway favorite on that front. The only thing that surprised me, I guess, a little bit here is, like, it felt like Draymond was going to kind of heist this award late. Like, we know he's been a winner there before. He ended up actually in 3rd here behind Dyson Daniels as well, who had a great season in Atlanta. But yeah, I mean, for Mobley, defensive anchor of the top rated Cavs, a team that's taken a lot of strides this year. And more importantly for him, $45 million that he's now eligible for with this DPOY award. So, yeah, job well done, Evan Mobley.
Yeah, I think the Cavaliers have got to be a little disappointed in this, right? It cost them some money, and it was an award that, listen, like Evan Mobley had a fine defensive season, but I would say that if it was a non-injury affected year, Evan Mobley probably finishes third in this voting behind Wemby and behind Jaren Jackson Jr., who also missed quite a bit of time. So I mean, like you could say the Wemby injury and then the Memphis Grizzlies going completely sideways gave this award to Mobley. I have to say, I'm really happy that Draymond Green didn't win this award, because for as loud as he got, and I respect Draymond, I like Draymond. I'm a, Warrior supporter. From a nostalgia standpoint, but Draymond Green coming in the final 15 games of the year and kind of playing of course, I'm the defensive player of the year, like speaking into existence, kind of just hijack the narrative kind of thing. I don't respect it. You can't really sleepwalk through the first half of the season, turn it on when Jimmy Butler gets there, and then try to convince everyone it's been going on the entire year. Draymond is an unbelievable player, but what we've seen is he turns it on and turns it off. So I'm appreciative that he didn't win this award. I think the voting ended up right around where it should. You could have made the case for Dyson Daniels, sure. But Evan Mobley's had a great year for a team that I think needs to get more recognition in the Cavaliers in terms of some of these awards too. So, I mean, I'm glad to see Mobley blossoming into the star that through a couple of years, I think we weren't really sure where Evan Mobley was going to end up. He's taken a huge step this year, as a franchise cornerstone.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the big story of the Cavs going into the year. It was, what is Darius Garland? What is Evan Mobley? I think with Mobley, even more than Garland, the potential was always there. Like you saw from the moment he got drafted, like he has all the tools to be a great player for a long time. But you're right. You needed to see those concrete steps this year. We certainly saw them during the regular season. Again, 2 games in so far. We've seen them so far in the postseason, and we'll get into the Cavs Heat series in a little bit. But it does seem to be, because that this is what they're playing for, right? Like this is, to me, the defining narrative for the Cavs is it's like, look, we've seen this team now in the regular season for the past few years. Like you need to come together, get some meaningful playoff wins, having one of the better seasons in franchise history. Like this is where you need to show out finally. Good news for them. Spoiler alert. They've done that through 2 games, and we'll get to there in a little bit. But, certainly the early returns are good. The last one is Jalen Brunson winning the Clutch Player of the Year. Again, this is kind of
I don't care about this award. This is a fake award.
Yeah, it's still kind of like this is the 3rd year that we've had it. De'Aaron Fox won it the first year. Steph Curry won it last year.
You could have given me 50 guesses. I wouldn't have been able to tell you who won the awards the previous 2 years.
Well, they dropped DPOY first too. And so it's like, I feel like DPOY to me is one of the bigger ones. Like that's, I mean, it's not MVP, but that's close to 2, right? Like I feel pretty great if you win DPOY. And so like, I was a little surprised to see that one getting out. Like even 6-man, I would argue is a better award than this, despite Pritchard being like the clear favorite there. I mean, look, Brunson was great in the clutch. Like he shot 64.7% from the AP in the final 30 seconds of the game. The Knicks were a great team, like the 3 seed overall in the East. It feels like, especially in the playoffs too, in the past, like he's been one of those like late game rising moments. You're right. Like this is definitely the one where I don't know. What does that mean? Like he beat Jokic and he beat Ant Edwards, and I don't know. How do you qualify clutch? Is clutch winning in late games that are close, or is clutch just like being up 30 points because your team is killing everybody? I don't know.
I mean, isn't clutch isn't this like the diet MVP? It just kind of means, hey, you were really important to your team in moments that mattered. I mean, like I don't know. I mean, I know that Brunson had a lot of big moments this year, but a lot of players did. Like there were a lot of really big game winners this year by guys. And so I haven't looked at kind of the last 2-minute clutch data, but maybe is Brunson at the top of that? And we're just going to do, it's an analytical award? I don't think so.
They
it's just a strange one.
They define it where the score differential has to be 5 points or less, and the game has to be in the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter or in overtime. So, like, yeah, his numbers are great. And so, like, that's the thing. I don't have any beef with Jalen Brunson winning this award. Like, his numbers are great in that time. But you're right. It's just more of a just general shrug about the award overall. Like, okay, well, just doesn't quite hit the same as some of the others.
I feel like we can find better awards for the NBA regular season that acknowledge, players that took the regular season seriously. And not that Brunson didn't, but I mean, I think that this is one where it's like, all right, I can't make heads or tails of it. You know what I mean? Defensive player of the year, I get it. You were the best player of the year defensively. I'd rather, instead of like clutch, let's just make it an offensive player of the year. Just do that. Like, there are plenty of players that had unbelievable offensive seasons that necessarily weren't Shea, and, well, we don't know who won the MVP yet as we're recording this, but who weren't, going to be the MVP. They're not Shea or Jokic, let's say. So I'd rather they did that than had something that's clutch. To me, this is just, it's a bit of a strange award.
Yeah, and I mean, a few other awards to drop. The big ones, like you mentioned, MVP is still out there. Coach of the Year is still out there as well. I do think Kenny Atkinson probably wins that. I mean, the only other one, Bickerstaff is the other one with Detroit. Yeah, like, you have to look. I mean, we Justin and I have talked about it for weeks, but it's like, and again, I don't even know how good of a coach JB Bickerstaff is, but I know that Detroit was one of the worst teams, if not the worst team I've ever seen play basketball last year. And the fact that they're in the playoffs, like, down 2-1 now, but like, these games have all been competitive with the Knicks. Like, this is exactly the series we hoped it would be, which we'll get into in a little bit. We're going to talk some Eastern Conference.
Quick question. How many times in NBA history, I should have looked this up before we taped, has a team won like 67, 68 games or more and the coach not won Coach of the Year? Like, Dagnall not even being a footnote, like an afterthought in this conversation, blows my mind a little bit. I get it. The Pistons are an all-time surprise. The Cavaliers, in terms of what they've done this year, as I said, day one that I'm in Cleveland, I'm like, you guys are a joke. Who cares? Like, you're going to finish 1 or 2 and then choke. But I can't believe that we're not really even talking about Dagnall in Oklahoma City for what they've become. But I think part of that is just what Sam Presti's put together, and he's getting a lot of the credit. So
I'm going to table this for 1 second, because we're going to come back to OKC and Memphis after the break. Because you're right. Like, this comes into my general, in a conversation that Justin and I have been having the past few weeks, is that, are we just all sleeping on OKC as the heavy favorite? Like, why are we not acknowledging this? It feels like it's right there in front of our face and we're all kind of running away from it. But you're right. That is a great point, because I don't think, I mean, he gets mentioned, but there's nowhere near, like, I think everyone is already pre-written that it's either going to be Atkinson or Bickerstaff, and like, there's not really any other movement for anybody, which you're right. I mean, shoot, even a guy like, well, we don't need to get too deep down it, but like, I look at a guy like Ty Lue and what he's been doing with this Clippers roster and how strong, again, they're a stronger finisher. So I think it's a lot of like recency bias, maybe almost the way it was with Draymond Green and DPOY.
Is that Ty Lue, or is that Kawhi Leonard getting healthy? Right.
Yes. But I will listen. I am a noted Ty Lue stan. I think he is the best non-Eric Spoelstra coach in the NBA. And I think what he's done with this team has been to even keep them afloat before getting Kawhi back. I mean, Kawhi back is what's getting them to the point where I'm like, yo, you could maybe talk me into like a title with this team. Are we there yet? But like, to keep them afloat, like, that team is competing all year long when it was just Harden and a bunch of like, supporting characters, more or less. Like, he was getting the most out of those guys. And it's certainly showing out now. Welcome everybody to the Driving Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rafuse. Again, Justin Cousart is off this week. He will be back next week. In the meantime, we got our pal Nick Gryniewicz here at GetNickG on Twitter, play-by-play voice of the Osceola Magic. We are going to talk a ton of first round coming up here in a sec. We're going to start out west. We'll go east as well, kind of break down these series. No grid this week. That will return with Justin next week. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find us. Watch the show on YouTube. Just search Driving Dish NBA podcast and hit subscribe. And now a word from our sponsors. All right, so back at it. First round, we are about 3 games in on every one of these series now by this point. We are recording this on a Saturday morning, just for clarity's sake of where we're at in all these series. So, a few surprises so far. I mean, I guess the thing I'm most excited about is that we have a lot of these series that look to be competitive, really have delivered so far. As we go down the bracket, again, we're just going to kind of start in order here. And in this case, with OKC and Memphis, it's a little more fitting because, like, I don't think we have a ton to say here. OKC is up 3-0. Memphis now with the John Morant injury. I mean, that was the big story of game 3. Memphis had a huge lead in game 3. I mean, OKC, the 26-point comeback, one of the biggest in the playoffs ever in the second half. But it is again worth noting that when Morant goes down with like 2:30 left in the second quarter or whatever, like that's a pretty big hit for Memphis. I mean, I still know it's disappointing to lose a big lead like that, but yeah, I mean, for OKC, it's like, look, you came out historical game one win. I mean, 50+ point win in the playoffs. It's like, hey, we're here. We're making the statement. Like we're ready to rock. I know that everybody's going to be kind of gunning for them, and I know we've kind of talked ourselves into some of these other Western Conference teams, but yeah, they're the favorite until otherwise seen in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say the Oklahoma City comeback really overshadowing the Scottie Pippen Jr. game is just a shame. I really wish he would have gotten his flowers. But, the Thunder are just so deep and they work in so many different ways. Yeah, I mean, you can put two bigs out there. You play with one big. The question that we had all year was like, well, once Chet gets back, is this going to work? How are they going to make this fit? And it's just all worked with Jalen Williams and, every piece that they have surrounding, this team, it just all fits. And it's why, like, I'm surprised Dagnall isn't getting more credit for the way that he's been able to coach this team and kind of put it together, which Shea is that centerpiece and then everything kind of working around, even down to like Caruso. I mean, who was kind of this funny bit character that was on the Lakers and then ends up in, Chicago and kind of bounces around a little bit. And now here he is in Oklahoma City. And, once Ja went out in that game, Caruso terrorized Memphis because they don't really have anyone that can bring the ball up the court the way that Ja can. And just, I will say we're sleeping on, to answer your question, we're sleeping on Oklahoma City. We are. And part of it is we're sleeping on them a little bit like we slept on the 2015 Golden State Warriors. You go back, I mean, that's 10 years ago, right? So, I mean, like, you go back 10 years ago and we have Charles Barkley saying, well, a jump shooting team's never won an NBA title. And this team is soft. They don't play tough. When they get to the postseason, they're not going to be able to bump and grind with everybody else. And there you go. The Warriors run out and they win a title that year. And a lot of it was because they were young, they were unproven, and they played the game a little bit differently. Now, Oklahoma City doesn't play as differently, but they are built in a way where they have, they're a Swiss Army knife team. We talk about Swiss Army knife players. They're a team where it's like, oh, you do that, cool. Like, we have the answer to that. It's just they have kind of the answer for everything. But because they're so young and so inexperienced, I think we've discounted them. They should be the heavy favorite in the Western Conference and in the NBA because of just how dominant they've been.
It just reminds me, I mean, you go back to 2015, but like I even go back to just last year's where it was like when Boston won last year, there was kind of that reflection at the end. And like, look, I know they had a few, if you want to call them hiccups, I guess, in the playoffs. I don't even really think they were that deep. And it was more due to injury than anything else. But it was like from start to finish, Boston was just leading every meaningful statistic. Like they just were the best team, period. Like there was just, people got close, but they just, from start to finish, basically ran the gauntlet. OKC is kind of doing the same thing right now. And again, you still got a long way to go, but it's like and that's with a lot of times missed for injury, like you said. And that to me is maybe the argument for, Danielle for coach of the year. It's like that to, with Chet missing significant time, with Caruso missing time at points, with Isaiah Hartenstein missing time to start the season. Like they've definitely, but when they all are together now, you're right. Like the optionality, and it's just the fact that they swarm on defense too. Like that's where I think you buy in. The inexperience, because like last year, I basically spent the season hammering them because I worried about their inexperience. Like I just didn't think they were ready yet. I think last year, though, that's where it matters, where it's like they kind of got that out of the way. They won a playoff series last year. You lose in the second round in kind of disappointing fashion to Dallas. But in a way, like for that young core, that's that valuable lesson, right? Like that is that almost like playoff seasoning, if you will, that you need. They got it now. And so now I'm sitting here like, listen, I think the only reason that I think us as a consensus and the NBA like community isn't more like gung ho about it is just Boston. And I mean, that's a whole other discussion with Cleveland too, but it's like Boston's looming on the other side. They're the defending champs. It feels like, I mean, especially in the later quarter, the last quarter of the regular season, they turned it on and they looked like champs. It was like, hey, we're still here. We're ready to run this thing back. It seems to be the eventual matchup, but I mean, OKC, they're not scared of anybody, and I think they're ready to compete on the big time.
Yeah, we'll get to the Eastern Conference, but the only thing standing in Boston's way, I think, in terms of making it out of the East, is whether or not Orlando decides to hurt another 3 or 4 players
Well,
before
yeah.
that series is over. But yeah,
Listen, I mean, if it just wants to turn into a knife fight, which it's sure brewing to
we're
at one
okay
point,
with that.
yeah,
they're okay
I
with
mean,
it.
meet me on Church Street. You know what's going on. But Rockets Warriors, this is one that's only 2 games in. But obviously now kind of like to a lesser extent with it not being 3-0, but now the big story here is the Jimmy Butler injury. Like split,
Right.
Golden State comes out, you win game 1. Jimmy is peak playoff Jimmy. Steph dominates in the clutch. Like this team, it's like, all right, this is what we've been waiting for. They were kind of a second half team that, post Jimmy looked entirely different. They plenty of experience. They're ready to go on this run. And it is now with this Jimmy injury, like that overshadows a little bit. Houston, good for them bouncing back and winning game 2. Obviously, Jalen Green, the story in game 2, just absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, he's, with Houston, he kind of admitted after the game a little bit of what we had talked about before, is where it's like Houston is the team to me this year where it's like, hey, that's where the jitters are. Like this core has had a great regular season. Udoka's been in the finals as a coach with Boston, but as a whole, they've never been here before, even with some vets on the roster. And I think that kind of showed out. I mean, if you look at game 1, like Şengün is the only one who really had really any kind of positive game. It felt like
they don't have an answer
game
for him.
1.
Yeah, Golden State doesn't have an answer for him.
And he was excellent as well in the second game. And I think that's a matchup, like you said, they should be going to. But yeah, I mean, with Jimmy out, this becomes like if that lingers and he misses time, like you have to win this series if you're Houston. Like it becomes I'm not worried about your season. Like you're just a better team than Golden State without Jimmy. And I would hate for that to be the story of this series, because I think like it is. Jimmy and Steph is an intriguing duo to me. Like I feel like, again, I'm not saying they're the runaway favorites here or anything like that, but they can make some noise. You don't let them get going. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you hope that Jimmy's not injured because you don't want to waste another Steph postseason, right? We only have so few of these left.
That's why you made the move.
Steph. Exactly. That's why you did this. Because of the moves made at the trade deadline, this is one that actually was for the short term in terms of a window. And so you go out and you get Jimmy Butler, and the injury, whatever, however long he could be out, is unfortunate. I mean, they've described it as a deep glute contusion. He's butt hurt. That's what it is, right? Like, I mean, his butt is bruised.
Yeah, he strained it and bruised it. Yeah,
exactly. By the way, I'm 35. I'm past 30 at this point. Jimmy Butler's past 30. Anytime you fall down and get a bruise like that on your backside, hey man, you're feeling it for days, let alone going out and playing in an NBA game. And so, I hope he can play as we're recording this. Steve Kerr said there's a chance for game 3 on Saturday night. So he hasn't been completely ruled out. I think the interesting question is like, do you play him compromised, or do you give him game 3 knowing that you've already stolen home court advantage? So do you try to get through one and say to Steph Curry, we need a supernova performance in game 3? Can you go out at home and give us the throwback Steph 35 plus 40 points and just be the Steph demigod, I'm not as good as I once was, but once I'm as good as I've ever been or something. And that's what they're going to need. And then they need somebody else, out there. If it's a Pajemski, if it's, whoever, do they dusted Kuminga off for game 2? Does Kuminga come out and do something for them? But they're going to need someone to do it. And then I'm willing to bet Jalen Green doesn't have a 39-point performance again. And that could be, if you're Golden State, you could be looking at it and saying, hey, that Jalen Green performance is the best thing that could happen to us, because he can shoot Houston out of some teams too, some games, as we saw in game 1. So this is the most intriguing series to me. I've enjoyed every bit of it. And we'll have to see. I also enjoyed Draymond Green being called a dirty player heading into game 3 here. Draymond Green is, of course, a dirty player. He leads the league in dirty. He leads the league in groin punches. That has been true for years. Referees don't care. He gets away with more than any player ever could. And I'm here for it. So they're going to have to ask Steph to be incredible in game 3.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And I'm with you, because it's weird. Like, you're right. Do you want to punt a game in a series that projects to be pretty close? Like, you have the luxury to punt that game. But there is a part of me where it's like, look, yeah, you aggravate this injury, God forbid, and Jimmy goes down for the rest of the series. It's like, hey, it's over. We're going to Cancun. I'll see you on the golf course. I think you have to trust your core.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about also what Golden State thinks of Houston. I think if you punt a game with Jimmy Butler, you think, you know what? We don't think you guys have it in us to win a game 7 on your floor if we end up there too. And so we'll have to see.
Well, and it's a totally different cast of characters. And so that's where, like, you made me wonder about that a little bit. But it's like, hey, you look at the narrative over the past decade, it's like, you want to talk about a team that Steph Curry has tortured. Like, Houston is probably up there at number 1. Like, all the years with Harden and Chris Paul, and like, you change the players and you change the faces, but it's been Steph Curry still terrorizing for a long time. And so, like, you do wonder, maybe is there any kind of like mental matchup there? But yeah, I mean, look, Dylan Brooks and Draymond is definitely going to be cinema for game 3. There's no doubt about it. You hit the Kuminga point too. I think that's a sneaky watch for Golden State if Kuminga can stay out of Steve Kerr's doghouse or not. All right, so 3-6, Minnesota's up 2-1, big win for them last night. And I mean, really the story for me of this series has been, and maybe this is all of our faults collectively, at least my fault for maybe not giving Minnesota enough credit here matchup wise. Because I think the Lakers' flaw that's being exposed right now is it's like, look, when you look at this Lakers team, they had a great second half of the season. You know what LeBron and Luka can do. JJ Redick has, I think, done a great job coaching and making kind of this, like, they've been a decent defensive team despite not really having a big man. I mean, no disrespect to Jackson Hayes, but like, he's basically the only guy out there. And it's been able to work. And I think now you go up against Minnesota, and I mean, Minnesota, the story to me is they've just been punishing them. Like, that's the interior, right? It's been Reed, it's been Gobert, it's been just being able to use their size, like with Julius Randle as well, like who I think that's a big revelation so far from Minnesota. Like, that's been, one of the big questions is Julius Randle has not traditionally been a guy that kind of comes through in the playoffs. He's been pretty serviceable for them so far. Big 22 points last night. He was efficient. Jaden McDaniels too, obviously having a phenomenal series, 30 points last night. I think he's been what they needed to be, but I mean, that's been really the story to watch is it's like, I haven't seen the Lakers have any sort of answer for Minnesota's size and physicality down low so far.
They don't have one. I mean, Minnesota in game 3 outscored the Lakers 56-26 in the paint. That's your game, and that very well could be the series. I always felt like we overrated this LA Lakers defense a bit throughout the regular season because we really started paying attention right before that Luka trade, and it was like, look at how good they're playing, and then it sustained after Luka came back too. But part of that as well is sometimes you get into a good rhythm, and the team runs into some matchups where you're playing some weaker teams and they're not making shots. I know if you look back at just some of the 3-point data, there was a bit of a lucky streak there as well during that defensive run where guys were just missing shots. But you knew when you got into the postseason and the game slowed down and they got more physical and you had bigger possessions where, it's not necessarily swinging around the horn and a guy's going to shoot a 3. We're going to play for, getting to the rim. It was going to be a problem for the Lakers. And this has been said so many times, so I don't need to say it, but the vetoed Mark Williams trade, we always discussed, is that going to come back to bite the Lakers? And I think that we're seeing it right now in terms of, Jackson Hayes is a nice player, but there's a reason why it didn't work out for him in New Orleans. And they just don't have a big, I mean, Rui Hachimura, good player. He's not a traditional center. And so you've got, Rui in game 3, 8 points, 4 rebounds. He's a -19. Jackson Hayes, 2 points. Jackson Hayes had 1 rebound. Is that right? 1 rebound.
Yeah.
In game 3, -13. I'm trying to remember. I heard someone say this quote a few days ago on a podcast. I wish that I could give them credit for it, but it was an old NBA coach that would say, "Hey, you put a dead body out there at the free throw line. The ball should hit him once, right? He should be able to get at least 1 rebound." Jackson Hayes is not a small guy. He's listed at 7 feet 220. He should give me more than 1 rebound in game 3. I know we only played 9 minutes, but still, they've just got nothing out of their front court. And they're gonna rely on Luka and LeBron. And apparently Luka was dealing with some flu-like symptoms in game 3 and just didn't didn't have the game they hoped. 17 points. He was a minus 16. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you got 38 out of LeBron last night. Like it was a vintage king performance. Yeah, and when you're going to waste a 38-10 game, like you're not pulling them out every single night. I mean, look, the Lakers have defensive personnel that I like. Like that's the thing is, I don't even think they just need a big. Like it all comes down to that. Like I like Finney Smith a lot. I like Jared Vanderbilt as a defender. I think Hachimura has a lot of optionality. Like you have decent, like the pieces are there. It's just not like you kind of thought this post Luka trade is it's like, look, they're still one season away, which you know, it's tougher to say that because LeBron is older now. Like you don't want to, the way you talked about with Steph, it's like you don't want to punt LeBron post seasons either. But yeah, I mean, it was always kind of like their best case scenario of everything clicks was going to kind of the conference finals. I think maybe I undersold just again, the matchup perspective from Minnesota. Like my worry with Minnesota is because Minnesota was clicking down the stretch. It's just they beat a bunch of bad teams. But the other part of me is like, well, hey, you handled your business. You did what you were supposed to. Like, I'm not really going to knock you for that either. But yeah, I mean, guys that, like I said, have not traditionally been great in the playoffs for them. I mean, namely Randall and Gobert. Like those are kind of the two big questions with this roster for me in the playoffs. They've been able to answer the bell this go around. You know, Ant was great, a lot of shots, but he got 29 points. Again, you got 30 out of McDaniels. Like you got to feel good if you're Minnesota. I mean, you're sitting at home right now. You know, you win one more game, go back to 3-1, you're up. You know, then you got what
cooked at that point in time. Yeah, this Lakers team isn't coming back from down 3-1.
And it feels like that. I mean, the Timberwolves kind of dominated these games 1 and 3. And I mean, even 2, it was like the Lakers bounced back and did what they needed to. Like, I'm not suggesting this series is over, but it certainly feel like Minnesota has been the better team for large portions of this series. You know, hey, you got to certainly feel good about their chances going forward. And like you said, back at home, you did what you needed to do in the split by getting that game 1 win. The series of the first round, though, in the West right now is Denver and the Clippers to me. Like that to me has been, you know, we're watching straight hoops right now. All of these games have been close except for game 3. I mean, the Clippers won big, you know, back in the Intuit Dome, breaking it in for the playoffs. Huge win to open that up. I mean, what was it? It was a Batum 3 to end the half. I don't remember if it was the first quarter of the half, but like it got one of the louder crowd pops that you've heard in a while. Like they're showing out for sure. I mean, look, this Clippers team to me could borderline be up 3-0 right now. Like Denver in game 1 just did
borderline.
Like everything went right in the clutch for Denver in game 1, and they were able to, you know, pull that out on their home floor. And I think they've been great in the clutch in the past. You know, we saw that a little bit. Like Russ it was chaos, but it was good Russ, you know, in a way. Like he hits the 3-pointer. He made a lot of energy plays there. You know, the story of game 2 was Kawhi. Like Kawhi was just fully in machine Death Star mode in game 2. Comes out one of the most efficient playoff performances you've ever seen. 15 to 19 from the field. Like just vintage Kawhi. And I mean, that's obviously the greater story of the Clippers right now. Like that's why we're all buying in. You know, you go out, you go back home. To me, that's a statement game 3 win. I feel great about them winning this series. Like I feel like they've been the best team this whole time. You know, Denver, it's a lot of what we talked about, right? Like, you know, if they can get Murray to 20 points, that's been the magic number for them, but the supporting cast just hasn't been as great. Now Westbrook's dealing with an injury as well. So like that's already been kind of a controversial statement and like, you know, with what he does and what he doesn't do. But like, again, you're already sapped for depth and you're dealing with that now. So you don't even have that option. I don't know. Like the Clippers get to 3-1. I think we're in spooky territory. And I think you have to feel like, I don't know, after game 3, like it feels like the momentum has decidedly shifted in the Clippers' favor.
Is Mike Malone watching this series and like side texting the Kroenke family? Like, I told you, see, I told you there's not enough on this team. Like I told you need Russell Westbrook, because one of the reasons why they fired him was because he was playing Russell Westbrook over, you know, Jalen Pickett, Julian Strawther, and some of these younger guys, Peyton Watson, right? And here you are in this series, and what's Adelman doing? The exact same thing, especially in the postseason when you would go to someone like that. But there's just not enough around Nikola Jokic. And, you know, full disclosure, I'm a Nuggets fan. I'm rooting for the Nuggets. My brother's got season tickets to the Nuggets, so I have a vested interest in them making it to the NBA Finals because I will have a seat at a Finals game. I would like to go. But at the same time, this series really should be 3-0 Clippers. The fact that you got the good and bad angel and devil Russell Westbrook performance in game 1, where you saw him shoot them back into the game, try to hand the game back, and then win it for them, was crazy. The Clippers should be up 3-0. They have been the better team. And it's the coming out part. I mean, like the Kawhi Leonard thing is a story unto itself, but I've really enjoyed the coming out party of Zubac, which you knew we were going to get. When the Lakers traded him years ago, I was still on the radio here in Orlando, and I remember saying, I love taking a 10-year victory route from a victory lap on a very small niche NBA opinion. But I was like, that's the dumbest trade for the Lakers. Zubac is good, and he is. He's good. He's turned into just a heck of a basketball player. I think he's going to make an all-defense team, and in very big moments, he's locked up Jokic a little bit at times, But this Clippers team should expect to win the series. It wouldn't surprise me if this is over in 5. I think it probably goes 6. We'll have to see what this is. Game 4 for me is, and as we're recording this, it's tonight. This is where you see, okay, like is there any kind of like gut left in this Nuggets team? Are they ready? Are they ready to just call it a year and we'll look ahead to next season, right? Coach is fired, GM is fired. Do they have anything left? Because they could easily let go of the rope here, get routed again by the Clippers, go home and maybe save a game, but just let the series go at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have, to me, one of the more interesting off seasons because, like, we know what it is. Like, no matter what, this Denver core succeeded. They won a championship, like, point blank, period.
That's it.
It's kind
Flags fly forever.
Yeah, it's we'll get to this a little later on with Milwaukee. Like the job was done, but you're right. Like with losing vets, like they bet a lot on young guys going forward, and they just haven't developed what they needed to. And like part of it is out of their hands. Like Jamal Murray has just had so many injuries that I think it sapped him a little bit. Like I do think that's taken away. You know, we saw what he could do when he was healthy. Him getting a max deal to me was not bad business. It's just unfortunate the way that's happened. We've talked a little bit about the Nuggets. I would just again like to welcome you back to the Church of Ty Lue. Let's look at this roster. Kawhi is like back full Terminator mode. And I know that's the most important thing. Like if Kawhi is playing like he is, he's arguably the best player in the league. We'll talk about his legacy one day. Cause I mean, we want to take away injuries. I could get real spicy with it, but that's a longer conversation for a different day. Harden's playing phenomenal. He looks like he's been rejuvenated and has been all year. Batum is the ultimate vet. We know what he does for this roster, but it's like, look at what he's done with Chris Dunn, how good and how much of a revelation he's been defensively. A guy that has just basically bounced around from roster to roster for the past few years. You know, getting a little bit, obviously career year out of Norm Powell, playing the best ball that he's been playing all year, getting meaningful contributions out of Derek Jones Jr., who avoids the only being good in Miami curse with Spo. You know, with a guy like Bogdanovich, who they brought in and who he's been a little bit of a resurgence for them off the bench. Like Ty Lue is just getting the best out of all of these guys. Like I don't think his coaching job ever gets enough credit. And I do like, this is a dark horse finals team. I'm not picking anybody over OKC, but when I look around the Western Conference and I say, who's number 2 right now? I'm looking square at the Clippers. Like they are just, and with Kawhi, you know what? I'll give him a shot against anybody.
I have not taken enough time to look at this Clippers bench. I'm so glad that you did this, Kevin, because I have not taken enough time. When you're looking at a bench, Batum, of course, as you said, an all-time pro. He's been around the league. Batum. But last night you had Drew Eubanks, albeit 4 minutes played, was a +6. Derek Jones Jr. played 23 minutes. He was a +20. Patty Mills is on this team.
Yep.
I mean, like the ghost of Patty Mills and Ben Simmons, you get positive minutes out of. And then you've got Bogdanovich, who, 10 minutes, he was +3 last night as well. Obviously, at a blowout game, the plus-minus kind of gets a little bit skewed. But there is really no one on this bench other than Batum and maybe Bogdanovich that you would say could come off and, like, pop a game off for you. Derek Jones Jr., airplane mode, has his moments. But Ty Lue has learned throughout his career, has had the ability throughout his career to push all the right buttons, pull all the right levers. And this is a guy that has completely changed my opinion of him. When he took over in Cleveland, I was like, wait a minute. The guy that's going to take over the Cavaliers is like LeBron's buddy and the dude that Iverson stepped over. Okay. And he is. He's one of the top coaches in the league. He has shown it everywhere that he has gone. And this Clippers team is peaking at just the right time. The real question moving forward for them, I think, is does James Harden have a successful full postseason. He has not had problems in the first round in his career. It has been the second and third round where the cart has come off the rails. And so I'm going to reserve judgment until then. But if you've got this Harden and this Kawhi playing, it's going to be, Clippers in Oklahoma City. That's going to be your big heavyweight matchup.
Yeah, and I mean, it's weird because you're right. Like, I have all those Harden concerns, and I weirdly like Kawhi offsets them entirely for me. It's like I've seen Kawhi rise up in the playoffs every single time.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I kind of think I'm like, that's the guy who will get you over the top. Like, he might be able to cancel that all out. Definitely.
And he's never had a teammate like that. Harden's never had a teammate like that in the postseason. You can say, well, wait a minute, didn't he have Chris Paul? That's not the same thing. Okay, Chris Paul, same thing. Like, he has
Kevin
never
Durant
had
at
someone.
one point, to be fair.
Okay, fine.
Much
Durant,
younger, but
much younger, and he was like the sixth man, right? We weren't paying attention during the postseason at that point. You're right. He had Kevin Durant for a long, long time ago. So I should say he hasn't had a teammate like that in a long time. But since this version of James Harden, where he is the apex predator number one on a team or 1A, he hasn't had another guy where in the postseason he can hand the ball to and say, you do it. He's had either Russell Westbrook or Chris Paul.
And he's always been an elite facilitator. Like, that's the one thing too. Like, even when people were lower on him on the Sixers, I was like, James Harden's still an elite point guard. Like, he had nothing else. He moves the ball well, and I think that's what we've seen him settle into that role there. It's a bit more of a hybrid role. Like, he's obviously not doing the high level scoring that he was in Houston, but you just don't need to, and that's the beauty of it. I'm Kevin Rafuse. He's Nick Gryniewicz. You're listening to the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Playoffs, first round in full swing. Let's go over East here a little bit. Cleveland up 2-0 on Miami. I don't really have a ton on this series other than I'm impressed that Cleveland has come out and they've controlled both of these games, mostly because, like, look, this is the worst Miami team in ages. Like, I don't even think Spo could work magic with this team, but like Spo could still be one of those guys who could coach them into like a win in this series and like make it a 5-gamer. Cleveland, again, both of these games at home so far, but have come out and done exactly what they needed to do. Just, not really close in any facet. We'll see how Tyler Hero responds. I mean, certainly Darius Garland put a little fire under him when they're like, hey, what's been the success? He's like, oh, we just attack Hero every time. I mean, no hesitation.
Well, you had Hero come back out and say, yeah, that's fine. Garland doesn't play defense either. And it's like, okay, so this is the most boring NBA beef ever.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, look, like give Hero credit for the way he's turned his season around this year. I mean, look, give this Heat team credit. I mean, they were kind of dead in the water, and the zombie Heat found a way out of the playoffs, or the play-in, I should say, to get into the main playoffs. But yeah, I mean, again, when Cleveland, all their talk has been about them and coming to the playoffs, and like it's time to show up. You haven't had that quote unquote tough series yet. Like, I think that'll come in the next round is when you start playing either the Pacers or the Bucks, where you'll start to get tested a little bit. But like, I do think there's something telling about, hey, just like we're crushing the team that we should be. It's kind of like the way it is with OKC, is where it's like, right, hey, we're setting the tone early here. We're not playing with our food. Like, if you're getting an extended series with this Miami team, that would immediately raise the red flags and start, trilling the alarm bells a little bit here. So, like I said, we'll see what happens today. That's the first game that'll be actually just tipping off here in a little under an hour. But yeah, I mean, so far they've done what they needed to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. You go out, you take care of business. I have to at least say, Tyler Hero turning into what could be like a 1-1A, option for a team is something that I didn't see. I kind of thought he was better suited as a 2 or 3. He's scoring for this Heat team and kind of get him everything he's got. But they don't have enough. This team doesn't have enough talent, and having Jimmy Butler push his way out kind of submarine their season. And so, I expect the Cavaliers to move on, but they're taking care of business.
Yeah, no, 100%. Going to the 2-3 matchup in the East, back home, the Magic and the Celtics. The Magic finding a way to win Game 3. This is my public apology to Andy Jordan, our pal, who has requested it because he was, I think a little more hurt than I expected when I had the Celtics sweep in this series. He's like, come on, my brother. He's like, you got to give us one. You know better than this. And it is kind of ironic because like Justin is the Magic hater on the show who never believes in them. Like, I kind of beat the drum a little more, but yeah, kind of a 90s style slug it out, Game 3 win for the Magic. I'm not going to lie, I did think towards the end when Boston had a shot, I was like, man, if they heist this game, like, are they going to do this? I still think Boston is fine here. Like, I think they're going to wrap this up in 5. But I mean, the big story more than anything is just like this thing has been a bloodbath. Like, you got Porzingis bleeding in game 2. You got obviously Jason Tatum going down, and he's now dealing with the wrist injury. Like, that's a looming story to watch for Boston potentially. Jaylen Brown is already dealing with a little bit. You know, Al Horford's fighting with KCP. Like, you know, God, Missoula's such a psycho. I love it. Like, just an all-time quote machine. What did he say the other night when he was like, yeah, you know what? Make us bleed between. I don't want the target on our backs. I want it right between my eyes. And it's like, oh my God, dude, Joe Mazzulla. Like, what's up with this guy?
Two coaches, him and Jamal Mosley. They both like it. They both like the physical play. They both, you know, it feels like they prefer this kind of series. And I think really as a whole, you look across the playoffs, the NBA is letting them play. I mean, you've seen a lot of physicality in Oklahoma City and Memphis, you know, a lot of physicality, obviously, in Golden State and Houston. You know, in the Orlando and Boston series, same thing. Orlando has, of course, been the aggressor. And I think you've heard a lot from Boston where they're complaining about it. I mean, there's a quote today where they're not happy about it. And I get it, because the guys that have been injured are their top line guys. Porzingis is bleeding, as you said. Tatum was a surprise, you know, active and played in game 3. I thought they were just going to sit him, didn't play in game 2. And then Jaylen Brown, I will say, in an all-time weak flagrant foul on Cole Anthony in game 3 on Friday night, where Brown was going for a layup. Anthony grabbed him and basically just held him down so he couldn't get the shot off. You wrap him up there, and Brown flopped all over the floor and rolled around. And I'm sick of this in the NBA too, guys. Like, you had the video of LeBron kind of looking at the official to see whether or not he can get a foul call. Enough of the theatrics here, okay? You got guys going down and basically putting on an all-time show here. Brown flopped around and got a flagrant. I think the officials are a little bit too touchy about this. We look at way too many of these. Let's move these games along. But this is the kind of game that Orlando is built to win. 95-93. I hope we all enjoyed our time machine televisions to watch that game, which took place in 1997. And Paolo and Franz go off. You know, that's what's surprising to me is they both had a negative plus minus. You know, Paolo gives you 29, was a -3. Franz gives you 32, was a -4. But those guys push the offense, and everyone else kind of defensively holds up. It was, you know, good to see the way Anthony Black played. He got hurt last night, so hopefully he's okay. But this is going to physicality you're going to see, and it'll be interesting to see how Boston responds, not just to the physicality, but that game 3 going into game 4, which will be on Sunday, because they can come out and basically just take their hearts, right? I mean, you're playing in Orlando. The Magic before the season went sideways were one of the best home teams in the NBA. I may be alone on an island here. I think it's one of the better home environments in the NBA. The song. Magic fans are underrated. They really get into it. I understand I'm biased. I'm here in Orlando. I do draw a paycheck from the team. And so I would tell you, though, if I thought, hey, like, it surprises me that they're not loud. That place, I've been there for a playoff atmosphere. It is very, very good. And so hoping to see them kind of make a series of this. I had Boston in 6. At the beginning, I thought that was kind of what the Magic had, and you know we'll have to see. But it's good to see Franz and Paolo getting going. Paolo is just, there was a moment in Friday night's game. Paolo is going to be just such a problem for the league. I mean, and I just see I know there are a lot of comps out there for him at this stage. Like he just looks like Carmelo Anthony. That's what he looks like to me. You just see shades of Carmelo in some of the moves and stuff. He's just so much fun to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, look, that's the big thing too. Like, right, if you're the Magic to have any chance in the series, you need your superstars to be superstars, and so you saw that. That was, you know, good to see those two step up, especially for Franz. I feel like Franz has had kind of a rough series to start, especially in game 2. Yeah, you know, Boston. It would be interesting. Like, there's no pressure. Like, Orlando would certainly winning game 4 would make this a series. I still think you feel great if you're Boston overall. Yeah. I'm not suggesting that you're in panic mode or anything yet. But yeah, like knowing the physicality that's going into this, and to me, like, you're right, that only benefits Orlando. Like, Orlando, it's all house money at this point. Like, you know, you're the underdog in this series. Like, you're just trying to go out and fight and, you know, maybe shock somebody a little bit, where it's like Boston, if they get off their axis a little bit, you start to play that game a little bit, like, that's when weirder things can happen. You're right. This game 4 is important because if Boston wins this game 4, like no matter what the physicality is, if you take that in Orlando and you're going back to the Garden, it's like, all right, we're coming back to a place where we just dominated the first 2 games. Like you feel good to close this out. Yeah, the Magic, it was good to see them hold on and, give themselves a fighting chance here. Game 4 is going to be the big test for them. We're going to see, what this team's got for sure.
Just one last point on it as well. I think the one guy that's watching this and is disappointed he's not playing is Mo Wagner, because Mo Wagner would just have so much fun with the physicality to let him play with. Like he might end up spending a night in county jail with the way they're letting these guys manhandle each other. Yeah.
I mean, dude, honestly, Suggs too. Like Jalen Suggs is the perfect player for this series. Are you kidding me? Like that's why, if anything, that's where I'm a little impressed with the Magic too. Is like Suggs to me is, I know Paolo and Franz, but like you could make a weird argument to me that Suggs is like their second most important player. And, you're not getting him for the rest of the year. Like defensively, you worried about that fall off a little bit. And would they have that intensity? And, it's good to see them bring that without that. Good for Jamal Mosley too, because I feel like there's been some weird pressure on him for his job, which I don't feel like that's deserved at all. Like not 2 seasons in and not after the job he did last year. Again, sticking with the physicality theme, Knicks Pistons, Knicks up 2-1 in this series. Just again, cinema all around. I love Detroit buzzing, obviously, and for the Pistons franchise, getting their first playoff win in game 2 for the first time in 2008. That's crazy to think about because I think you and I grew up watching the Pistons, win a championship.
The last time they won a play, did you see the roster? The starting 5 for the Pistons.
It's the guys, man. It's the guys.
Them. Yes, it was unbelievable to watch.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, look, they were in the playoffs. Like they had the Blake Griffin year, like with Andre Drummond too. So like they've been there. It's just they were always an 8 seed. So they got killed every year by LeBron, where it's like, no, we're here now. We can compete a little bit. I mean, that's a huge win for the Knicks in game 3. Like there's no way around it. Like if you're down 2-1 and Detroit like starts smelling the blood in the water, you get a little worried being in Detroit the way you were. I mean, the big story for me for the Knicks in game 3 was just getting Cat back involved, right? Like it was inexcusable how little in game 2 he touched the ball at the end of the game. Like he basically was phased out of the offense midway through the 3rd quarter. And it wasn't like, usually Cat kind of like vanishes at times during playoff games. It was like, no, they're not scheming him looks. Like that feels like a problem. And I think it showed a little bit there in game 2. So I think, seeing that bounce back was good to see from Cat in game 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about house money with Orlando. Detroit's playing with house money too. To get that win is huge. It's the Cunningham kind of Cade Cunningham coming out party as well. Everyone's getting to know him on a national stage and what he's turned into. But more than anything, Karl Anthony Towns, who had the reputation as a guy also that didn't show up in the postseason and hasn't played well in big moments, and he gives you 31 in game 3 when you need it. I would say Jalen Brunson, that was a backcourt violation. But then again, you've got the weird free throw thing. Weird officiating. I don't know if I've seen two teams come out at the same time and basically say, hey, like, what the heck is going on here? But that was a weird way for game 3 to finish. And the Knicks probably have this series right where we expected it to be 2-1, after dropping a game at home in game 2.
Yeah. And I mean, it's still, though, if you're the Pistons, I think you feel good here because, again, the pressure slips back. Like, you win this game 4, like, you do what you needed to do. You already got one in New York. Like, New York is the team that spent all this money. Like, they are supposed to win the series. Detroit, no matter what happens, and again, you don't want to just lean on that, but, like, this is an objectively successful season for the Pistons no matter what.
They doubled their win total. Absolutely. Over doubled it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, look, Hardaway Jr. has been great this series for them. Cade, this is obviously his national breakout star campaign. I got to ask you, Justin hit me with this last week, and I've been pondering it, and I still stand where I was at. But who is the best player in this series?
Well, I wasn't expecting that question. Who is the best player in this series? So. Here's the question I would ask back. Okay, when you say best player in the series, is that who do I want having the ball with a chance to win last shot of the game? Is that best player, or is who's the most?
I'm saying you have these rosters. They're standing in front of you. Like we're on the playground, and I'm picking a team to win, and I'm saying, who am I taking first?
Jalen Brunson. I ride and die with that guy.
I'm still with Brunson too. He is. Yes. And I'm still with Brunson too. Like I am, and that was quickly my reaction as well. But I was like, damn, I had to think about that for a second. That's kind of crazy. Like Cade to me though, is Cade 2?
Yeah, I would say it's Brunson 1, Cade 2, and then I'm probably taking Towns.
Yeah. And then it's like
Towns 3?
Towns or Bridges or like OG if you really want to get like wild with it. But like that was my point. The fact that like there was a little bit of hesitation for a second, I was like, damn, Cade really did it. He broke out this year. Like last year, there's no question I'd have answered Jalen Brunson in 2 seconds. And I still am taking Jalen Brunson. I haven't moved off that hill. But the fact that I had to think about it, I was like, little interesting. Cade's had his breakout campaign. Like they've got what they've needed to. It's been obviously like a weird cast of vets has worked for this squad. Like look at what Dennis Schroeder's doing on his 3rd roster this season. Look at what Tobias Harris has done for them all year. Some of the young guys breaking out too. Like Durant has been great. I think he's that the pick and roll game with him and Cade has been super effective for this team all year. For the Knicks, their starting guys did what they needed to do in game 4 or game 3, I should say. Like Bridges had 20, OG had 22, Jalen had 30, Cat had 31. Like, it was good to see their top guys take over. The bench was obviously the big story in game 1 during that comeback. You love what Campaign does off the bench, and I still think he's a great spark there. It's going to be the Knicks needed to win game 3. I think that was a must win for the Knicks. I think they should be feeling the heat a little bit, but no matter what, you're going back to the Garden. But like, yeah, this is a fun series so far. I think this has been the best series in the East, like unquestionably, and I think it will be. I think it's the only one that like really has a chance of going the distance here. Maybe we'll speak that into existence with Indy and Milwaukee a little bit here. A big win for Milwaukee the other night, back on their home floor in a series where Indy has pretty much controlled it the first 2 games, and that's even with Dame Lillard coming back in game 2. Granted, obviously coming off deep vein thrombosis like that, like there's expected to be a bit of an adjustment, and I think you saw that for Damian Lillard a little bit in game 3. But yeah, for the Bucks, like the vultures were circling last night, and I think already with the Bucks that we're kind of having that conversation of, hey, if they get ran out of the gym by the Pistons or by the Pacers, I should say, excuse me, what are we doing here? And that talk on hold a little bit last night. And the big story is Gary Trent Jr., right? Like what a performance. 9 3-pointers, 37 points, super efficient, 11 of 16 from the field. Like Gary Trent Jr. saved the season. And those are the guys that when you look at this roster, it's like, if you need a hero, like it's going to be him. It's going to be Kevin Porter Jr. It's going to be like Kyle Kuzma that they need to step up. Like that's where it has to come from. If it's not Dame or if it's not Giannis, like they got their 37 out of Giannis, but I think it's important too, for them to win that game. When you look around and you go, Brook Lopez and Dame Lillard had a combined 7 points. And by the way, Nick, congratulations. You scored as many points as Brook Lopez did in this game. So for them to find a way to win that by 16 points that's pretty impressive. They needed somebody to be a hero, and Gary was that hero.
It's why I think this series is over. I know that it's 2-1, and I opened up the box score and saw Gary Trent Jr. 37 points, a plus 20. I was like, cool. So this series is cooked. You're going to get that out of Giannis, and nothing on Damian Lillard here. I think Doc Rivers, it was after game 2 or game 3. He had some very poignant comments about Damian Lillard, and they resonated with me. Because I have and am dealing with my own recovery of things. And I think that the average fan, casual viewer does not understand what it is like to, especially from an NBA standpoint. I'm not comparing myself to an NBA player, but what it is like when your body physically cannot perform it the way that it is intended, or that it normally can. And so for Damian Lillard to shut it down, how long was he out? For a month, right? Basically, 6
Not
weeks.
Even, really, yeah. It's like it's a miracle that he's playing.
Yes, but you're not running, you're not lifting, you're not doing anything to keep yourself fresh. I wouldn't have blamed Damian Lillard if he said, "Hey guys, like we're not going to win the title. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna watch the games, but I'm not going to play. I'm not going to risk further injury at this stage of my career. We'll come back next year and we'll try to, we'll try to do it." And instead, he has put himself, into the middle of this series in game 2, and he's doing the best that he can. Like, I don't blame Damian Lillard whatsoever. Like, there is a point in which, though, where a guy reaches back and just doesn't have it, can't find the thing that he normally has. And I will tell you from experience, it is a frustrating and scary thing. And you can see it with Damian Lillard. He doesn't have the same jolt. He doesn't have the same, energy and physicality that he normally does. And part of that's because of the layoff, and I'm sure what he's dealing with. It is, as you said, it's a miracle that he is back. And without him and the threat of Damian Lillard going Dame time, the Bucks just don't have enough. And it's going to be an interesting. They are one of the top 5, top 3 off seasons for the NBA this year. But this feels like Pacers in 5 to me. I really do. It feels disrespectful because Giannis is on the Milwaukee Bucks. But I think this is a game 4 win for Indy, and then they go home and they take care of business.
Yeah, that's kind of because, like, at the end of the day, like, Dame was engaged defensively, but you're right. Like, there's a lot of comeback from there. Kuzma has still been a complete non-factor, and I think that's,
terrible trade. John Horst gets a contract extension the same year that he trades for Kyle Kuzma there. That's a complete miss. Just total miss. And
it was kind of like obvious from day one. Like, that was one of those trades that I feel like has gone exactly how everybody predicted. I mean, look, moving Gary Trent in the starting lineup was a great decision. It worked out. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, is that what I'm banking on to save me every single game? And I mean, look, maybe he does. Like, you got, again, you're going to get what you need out of Giannis, but it's just tough for me. Like, the way Indy's been balanced. Like, they just, like, their pace, no pun intended, has had them off a little bit. Like, Siakam has been phenomenal all series. Like, I don't know. It feels like, and that's also me just being kind of higher on this Pacers squad. Like, they have a lot of guys that I think are really underrated. Namely Aaron and Andrew. Like, just because their last names are so similar. Like, I've tried so hard all season to, like, come up with a nickname for them, and I've just got nothing to stick. But yeah, like, I think they're giving you really underrated contributions. Even on when Hallie is still, kind of up and down offensively, but at least he's getting his teammates involved every single night. Like, I don't know. You're right. Like, I didn't walk out of this game. I felt like it was just an off game for the Pacers, and I feel like the Bucks had that guy that stepped up when they needed to. Like, I feel like the Pacers are going to win game 4, and you're right. It's kind of over at that point. Like, if we're going back to Indy, I don't think it would really be something if Doc Rivers flipped a 3-1 comeback for once in his life, but
I'd love to see it. As Doc Rivers is an Orlando guy, I'd love to see it for Doc.
I'm going to immolate if that happens, actually. So you can take over the podcast when that happens.
Sounds good.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Appreciate you guys, as always. Again, it is great to have my friend Nick Gryniewicz back on the program. Follow him on Twitter at GetNickG. Of course, play-by-play voice of the Osceola Magic. Yeah, man. Like, I keep not trying to, like, lay too much sap on, but, like, it was dark at one point when you were sitting in the hospital.
It was not great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, look, like, into the personal life, like, Nick is one of my best friends. I hated to see him go through that. Like, and I'm glad that you're, smiling and podcasting and back home where you belong. Like, it's good to have you back on your feet. Like, that's really all I just keep coming back to. God bless the Cleveland Clinic, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, and as you said, not to get, like, too sappy, too personal. The big thing for, like, I went in the hospital and I was like, damn, am I going to, like, you hadn't announced a date or anything like that. I was like, am I going to miss Kevin's wedding? I was like, am I going to miss life? All of these things. And, like, dude, I'm just glad to kind of be out and back and all that stuff.
I just, like, and like, look, I'm glad that we don't have to talk about this. I would have never weirdly forgiven myself if I hadn't, because, like, I haven't been back to Florida, full disclosure, since I've started law school. Like, I moved out of Orlando 3 years ago. I have not been back. Amber, my fiance,
we miss you guys every day too.
And likewise, like I said, all you guys in the group chat.
That might have been why my heart came out. Yeah, not gonna lie, you guys.
don't do that to me. Gene has stepped up big time, but no, like, yeah, it's that was part of just going through with law school, is that you make a lot of the traveling is the biggest sacrifice. And for me, like, I'm almost done. Like, I'm weeks away from that being done, and, like, there's bar exam and all that, but, like, I'm looking ahead and I'm going, hey, I'm a few months away from being a normal human being, being able to get back and, like, do things like that. And so it's like, yeah, I didn't want to, like, that would have not sat well with my soul. And so but what did Kanye and what did Tatum say at the end of it when he was trying to be a meme after winning the title last year? I guess we'll never know. Justin will be back next week. We'll catch you guys soon.